All-Star game.
What just happened at the WNBA All-Star Draft wasn't a pick, it was a power move. Caitlin Clark didn't just build a dream team, she fired her assigned coach live, with a smile. No apologies, no fear, just a clear message to the league. I'm not here to be disrespected, and that one moment flipped everything upside down. This is the story behind the coldest move in WNBA All-Star history.
Sorry WNBA if that's not in the rule. Sorry ESPN if that's not in the rules, but we just made it a rule.
The 2024 WNBA All-Star Draft was billed as a fun night, friendly banter, big smiles, and safe choices. Fans expected Caitlin Clark to play along, maybe crack some jokes and draft a few familiar names. After all, she's the rookie, right? A newcomer surrounded by veterans. But the moment her name was introduced, something shifted. Clark didn't just walk into the spotlight, she owned it. There was a calm fire in her presence. This wasn't about fun anymore. It was about power, control, and reclaiming a narrative that had been wrestled from her for months. On paper, Cheryl Reeve was the obvious pick to coach Clark's team. Her Minnesota Lynx were dominating, but the history between Reeve and Clark was more complicated than the box score. For months, Reeve had made it clear, subtly and sometimes not so subtly, that she wasn't on the Caitlin Clark hype train. Fans noticed the passive-aggressive interviews, the deleted tweets, the cold tone when discussing Clark's rise, and when Caitlin was shockingly left off the Olympic roster, all fingers pointed toward Reeve. Whether fair or not, the perception was already shaped. Reeve didn't believe in Clark, and now, by default, she was assigned to lead her. The tension? Palpable. Then came the moment no one could have scripted. Caitlin Clark leaned toward the mic, looked calm, and dropped a sentence that stunned the room. "We're going to trade coaches." The air froze. Commentators stopped mid-sentence. Cheryl Reeve froze, unsure if she heard right. Was this even allowed? Did Caitlin just reject her own coach? Live? She followed it with a smile and a line that's already become legendary. "Sorry WNBA, if that's not in the rules. We just made it one." In that instant, the rookie became the headline. She didn't yell, she didn't argue, she just executed. This wasn't a random switch, it was intentional. Caitlin didn't just remove Reeve, she brought in someone who actually believed in her. Sandy Brondello, the Liberty's head coach, known for her composure, tactical brilliance, and strong player relationships, Brondello represents everything Clark values in a leader. She's not in the spotlight for controversy, she's there because she wins with grace. By picking her, Clark didn't just get a coach, she got a partner. Someone who wouldn't second-guess her potential, someone who didn't come with politics or drama. It was a statement about energy and trust. The camera zoomed in as Clark spoke, and Cheryl Reeve's body language said everything. Her smile looked strained, her eyes searched the room, and for a split second, her guard dropped. This wasn't just a demotion, it was a televised shift in power. For months, Reeve held influence over Clark's journey. But now she was reassigned to the opposite bench, live, by the very player she once seemed to dismiss. The symbolism was impossible to miss. Reeve had to play along, but the message was loud and clear. Caitlin Clark was taking her career into her own hands. Clark's next moves spoke volumes. Her first pick? Aaliyah Boston, her teammate and day-one supporter. Not the flashiest name in the pool, but one of the realest. It wasn't about clout or fan votes. It was about loyalty. And from there, every draft decision followed the same blueprint. Pick people who've had your back, not people who smile for cameras but throw shade behind closed doors. Clark was curating energy, not chasing applause, and in doing so, she made it clear. This draft wasn't just about basketball, it was about setting boundaries. Clark's strategy wasn't flashy, but it was effective. She chose players like Sabrina Ionescu, who'd been publicly supportive throughout the season, then Satou Sabally, another player who stood behind the rookie movement, and finally, A'ja Wilson, undeniably dominant, but more importantly, respected across the board. These weren't random selections, they were intentional picks based on alignment. It wasn't just a lineup, it was a message. If you stood with her, you were in. If you didn't, you watched from the other bench. The irony couldn't be sharper. Cheryl Reeve was now coaching Team Collier, many of whom had been skeptical of Clark in the past. The energy felt stiff, forced. As Clark's team laughed and gelled, Reeve's squad seemed professional but cold. It was a reminder of the deeper divides in the league, generational, cultural, and emotional. The WNBA's quiet politics were suddenly front and center, and fans noticed every detail. No moment like this stays in isolation. Twitter lit up with screenshots of Reeve's old tweets resurfacing, the ones questioning Clark's attention, mocking her support base, and dismissing her presence as a media obsession. They were subtle when they first appeared, but now in this new context, they hit like bricks. Fans began connecting dots. This wasn't just a draft move. This was Caitlin finally clapping back, without saying a single name. Every pick Clark made felt like calling a friend. Kelsey Mitchell, her backcourt teammate with chemistry you can't teach. Gabby Williams, a grinder who keeps drama far away. Sonia Citron, a link to her winning past. The bench didn't feel like a collection of talent. It felt like a family reunion. No forced smiles, no locker room agendas, just teammates ready to ride for each other. In a league where locker room culture matters more than fans realize, this was the real win. Through it all, Caitlin stayed unbothered. She didn't need to explain herself. She didn't throw shade. She didn't name drop. She simply acted with confidence. In a room buzzing with cameras, politics, and social media pressure, her silence was louder than any soundbite. She wasn't just rewriting the rookie playbook. She was burning the old one and starting fresh. Commentators fumbled their words, unsure how to respond. One whispered, "Can she even do that?" Another tried to spin it as playful, but fans weren't confused. They knew exactly what just happened. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't for laughs. Caitlin Clark had just redefined what player empowerment looks like in front of millions. And when she coolly said, "Sorry WNBA, we just made it a rule," it echoed far beyond that studio. It wasn't just a mic drop moment. It was a new rulebook being written live on air. At first, some skeptics online said Clark was being too bold or making it about herself. But the tone changed fast. As her draft unfolded, fans and analysts realized this wasn't ego. It was intelligence. She was creating inside scoring power with Boston and Wilson, shooting threats with Ionescu, length and athleticism with Sabali, defense and pace with Gabby and Sonia. It wasn't flashy, it was thoughtful. And suddenly, the same experts questioning her were now calling Team Clark the most dangerous squad on the board. Respect wasn't demanded, it was earned, piece by piece. Meanwhile, the camera kept cutting back to Cheryl Reeve, now seated beside Nafisa Collier. She smiled, nodded, laughed on cue, but the energy was off. Her movements felt rehearsed, her posture stiff. It was the body language of someone who knew they had lost the room. And for fans watching closely, it was the perfect visual metaphor. Reeve, once a central power figure in the WNBA narrative, was now sidelined. Not by scandal, not by league rules, but by a rookie who simply refused to be silent. For most rookies, the All-Star game is a time to stay quiet, smile, and soak it in. But Clark flipped that script. Her poise wasn't loud, but it was steady. Every move felt rehearsed, not in an artificial way, but in a prepared way. She had clearly thought about who she wanted beside her, and she didn't flinch when the time came to act. That kind of confidence, especially under the kind of spotlight Clark lives under daily, is rare. It made fans realize they weren't just watching a star being born, they were witnessing a leader stepping into her power. Gone were the days of Clark nodding along and pretending everything was okay for the cameras. This version of her had no room left for fake smiles or passive diplomacy. She wasn't rude, she wasn't bitter, she was just honest. And in today's media-trained league, that honesty hit different. Her message was clear. Respect is earned, not handed out. And if you disrespected her, no matter your title or resume, she wasn't afraid to say, "No thank you," even if it meant rewriting the script in front of millions. For months, the league tried to frame Caitlin Clark as a sideshow. Good for ticket sales, good for views, but maybe not ready to lead. This moment shattered that narrative. She didn't just pull views, she pulled the strings. She made a personnel move no one saw coming, and she did it without breaking character. The league now had no choice but to see her not just as a rising star, but as a cultural force. You don't sideline players like that. You build around them, or risk being left behind. Clark didn't tweet. She didn't clap back in interviews. She let her picks speak for her. Every player she drafted sent a message to the people who doubted her. Every name left off was a silent reminder that she remembers. She listens. And she doesn't need to drag you publicly. She just won't invite you to the table. It was grace and accountability wrapped in strategy. A masterclass in professional boundary setting. Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, TikTok. They all exploded. The clip of Caitlin trading her coach started trending within 15 minutes. Comments ranged from "This is savage" to "This is iconic." Memes flooded the timeline. Fan edits, reactions, and replays were everywhere. Even NBA players weighed in with cryptic respect emojis. In a matter of hours, the draft had gone from routine to legendary, and for once, the WNBA wasn't chasing a viral moment. It had one handed to it on a silver platter by its biggest rookie. If there were still fans on the fence about Clark, this moment likely changed that. Not because she pulled a power move, but because of how she did it. Calm, precise, without bitterness. Fans love players who can perform under pressure, but they admire players who can lead under pressure even more. Clark proved she could do both, and she did it without needing the league's permission. That's not just rookie talent, that's legacy material. Team Clark and Team Collier weren't just rosters, they were energy metaphors. Team Clark felt alive, bonded, laughing, and connected. Team Collier, on the other hand, looked functional but stiff. One group had been carefully crafted with purpose, the other stitched together by assignment. And in sports, energy often wins before talent even steps on the court. The contrast was jarring, and it made fans feel like they were watching more than a game. They were witnessing a culture clash unfold. Inside the league, players watch everything. Locker room whispers, private texts, subtle shade. It all circulates fast. And Caitlyn's move? It didn't go unnoticed. Whether they agreed or not, players respected the courage it took. To trade your coach live? That's not small talk material. That's a line in the sand. And for younger players watching, it was a blueprint. A reminder that you don't have to smile through disrespect to keep your spot. She didn't need to march or rant. She didn't throw jabs. She just picked her team, stuck to her energy, and let her actions speak. In doing so, Caitlin Clark started something quiet but powerful. A player-led culture shift inside the WNBA. One where loyalty matters. One where rookies aren't afraid to set boundaries. One where smiling for the cameras is optional, but knowing your worth is mandatory. This was supposed to be just another all-star draft, a harmless televised event. But Caitlin Clark turned it into something unforgettable. By trading her coach live, building a team based on loyalty, and flipping the power dynamic of an entire league, she didn't just make a statement, she made a mark. One that will echo across seasons, locker rooms, and WNBA boardrooms for years to come. When the dust settles, Caitlin Clark's real draft wasn't just about basketball. It was about values, about drawing a line between respect and politics, about saying, I deserve to be treated right, now, not later. She didn't wait for a torch to be passed. She built her own fire, and in doing so, she reminded every young player watching that it's okay to speak up, to act, to take control. This wasn't a PR move. It was the beginning of something far bigger. If you believe in standing up for yourself, if you're Team Loyalty, Team Real Energy, or Team Caitlin, then show it. Smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe so you never miss another moment like this. Because this channel isn't just about basketball, it's about power, pride, and the players who rewrite the rules from the inside out. Caitlin Clark isn't just here to play, she's here to lead. And tonight, she made sure the whole league knew it.